The United Nations has come out with a climate report that is, quote, code red for humanity. The UN chief says prediction of quicker onset of global warming is a tipping point and must sound a death knell for fossil fuels. The report says, quote, the alarm bells are deafening and the evidence is irrefutable. Greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuel burning and deforestation are choking our planet and putting billions of people at immediate risk. Global heating is affecting every region on Earth, with many of the challenges becoming irreversible. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg said the long-awaited report contained no real surprises, saying it confirmed what we already knew from thousands of previous studies and reports. We are in an emergency, she says. It's a solid summary of the current best available science. Now, a lot of people on the right will deny that climate change even exists. I am not in that camp. You can clearly see that the oceans have been getting more acidic. You can see that if you measure the temperature in the same place over a period of years, the last couple of decades have certainly seen warming. You can see that if you measure the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere over the last couple of decades, really since industrialization, that has most certainly increased. However, the policy prescriptions that come from the left on this issue, or the globalists in the case of the UN, are something that I completely disagree with. And here's why. If you're somebody in the developing world who doesn't have access to good healthcare, to good education, to meaningful work that would allow you to be a part of the global economy through some form of production, who are people that live in the developed world to tell you that your nation cannot rely on coal power, cannot rely on dirty fuels to lift yourself out of the poverty that you are in so that you and your family can live a better life? Now, I understand that in the developed world, we certainly have to do our part. However, I think that we need to be very careful how we do our part and how we agree to do our part. For example, the Obama administration certainly did it wrong when they agreed to the Paris Climate Accord. If you don't know what that was, it was when a bunch of world leaders got together and Obama basically signed the United States on to this climate agreement without getting the approval of the legislature. And then, of course, when Donald Trump gets into office, he can immediately throw that out the window because he sees that it is something that will be damaging to business. If we want to address climate change, we need to do it through the legislature. It's something that can't be addressed purely on the executive level. And we need to have a national conversation about how we want to address this as Americans. I think that nuclear power is a great option. Why? Well, because it doesn't produce global warming, and the main reason that we've stopped using nuclear power is kind of the fallacious idea that it is extremely dangerous. Now, it's definitely not the cheapest per watt hour. That natural gas is the king in that regard. However, if we are looking to develop clean power infrastructure, the reality is that in many instances, nuclear power is a more feasible way to do that than solar or wind. Then comes the question of how much money should we sink into developing green infrastructure in the United States. And to me, as somebody who sees the growing federal debt and understands that we are going to have to A, inflate our way out of it, or B, tax our way out of it, I am reticent to encourage the federal government to spend trillions more on Green New Deal type programs, even though I think that climate change is a real problem, because I haven't seen any evidence that spending money in that way will actually do very much to reduce the impact that we have on the climate. Now, I could be wrong. However, this is a debate that we're going to have as a society, and I think it's one where if the right does not acknowledge that climate change is indeed real and that we need to come together and discuss how to ameliorate it, it's an issue where we will end up looking bad in the long run.